All right, our very first speaker, particularly proud to bring, as we love to bring qualified speakers from other districts. Our speaker tonight is called Dare to be a Late Bloomer. Forrest Baird challenges one of the biggest myths we tell ourselves, that success belongs to early starters and child prodigies. In this keynote, Forrest will reveal why so many people give up before they ever bloom, share his own journey as a late bloomer, and spotlight for 5 remarkable individuals who found successes later in life. Forrest will also introduce a practical framework to help you embrace your timing and unlock your voice, especially as a speaker with untapped potential. To bring it all to life, Forrest will close with a 1-minute live demonstration on a musical instrument he picked up at the age of 36. Now, I think that may be giving away his age, but I will not say anything more than what's his introduction. Forrest Baird, glad to have you on the District 12 Speakers Bureau stage.
Thank you. All righty. Picture this as we begin. We are born. Then we are 5. We are 7. And then we hit 11. We finally become a teen. We celebrate our sweet 16. And then we hit 18. We have fun at 21. And we get our insurance lowered at 25. Before you know it, you're 35, 45, 55. What do you notice about the cycle of life? It's not really a cycle at all. It's a lineage. And we go forward. We do not go back. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and to our friends joining us online today, thank you for being here. My name is Forrest Baird. I'm a QS in District 100, visiting this beautiful Speakers Bureau in District 12. And today, I want to give you a challenge up front. I want you to dare to be a late bloomer. As we dare to be late bloomers, we're going to go through the roadmap, just so that everybody knows where we're going, because I'm going to drive this bus. The first thing we're going to talk about is the misconceptions about progress and how life is done. There are 2 major misconceptions that we are going to address. Secondly, we are going to be introduced to 5 late bloomers who bloomed later than me and perhaps even later than you. Third, we're going to learn how to embrace becoming late bloomers ourselves. I'm going to give you 3 tips and a framework that'll help tie that together. Fourth, I will give you a demonstration on an instrument I started at the age of 36. And I'll tell you how many years I've been doing it afterwards, and then you can calculate my age for yourself. We'll have a Q&A afterwards, per Tom's request, where we'll have the offline audience first and then the online audience thereafter. And then finally, we will have a toast to being a late bloomer. But before we can embrace being a late bloomer, we have to address something that stops a lot of people from becoming late bloomers. There are 2 major misconceptions that we have to address that stop many people from trying and stop them from going as well. As I was pondering through life, why do people quit? Why do they say, I can't do this, or I can't achieve this? Point in going any further. I looked it up on Google. Recently, I even asked ChatGPT, and nobody could give me an answer to that. Sure, there are some psychological theories, but then I thought about it. What is stopping people from getting started, or what is stopping them from proceeding any further? And it comes down to this. It is the deadline illusion. The deadline illusion is what stops us all from achieving the things that we want to achieve. And the crux of the deadline illusion
Ooh, I don't know what happened here. They're back.
But despite my progress, I couldn't get there. But then I thought to myself, what if there's an alternative path to this life? What if I could still enjoy music and perhaps pick up a new vehicle down the road that drives better and do something else along the way that can build different skills and synergize them all together? That's my story, but I want to share with you some common stories that I have seen before. Here are 4 common stories that I've seen with the deadline illusion. I must get into my dream college by 18. I must get married by 25. I must buy a house by 30. And the biggest one going on today, especially with the young kids, I must be a millionaire or a billionaire by the age of 35. These are remarkable goals to have, and there is nothing wrong with having with these goals. But the problem becomes when we use somebody else's timeline to live our lives instead of our own timeline and let ourselves bloom naturally. So it begs the question, all these achievements that you see in front of you, my question is, says who? Who is telling you that you have to achieve it by then? Is somebody micromanaging you and saying, oh, Richard didn't achieve this by 45. He's not cut out for it. Or my wife, Chelsea didn't become a CMO by the age of 35. I guess she's not cut out for it. Whose timeline are you listening to? That's what we have to be careful of. And I think it's all rooted in child prodigies and how we look at people who start early and we think they are blossoming before our eyes. And what is the misconception from child prodigies that we see? Wow, they're really great right now. Imagine them 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years, etc. How much further can they go because they have a strong start? But life loves a good laugh, a belly aching chuckle, where it says, I don't think that's how it's going to be. And we all know from seeing other child prodigies, they rise to fame and then they burn out. And why is this? It's because there's an expectation about progress. So the real question is, are child prodigies destined for success? I've read many stories. I've crunched some data. I love numbers. And all the numbers point to, not really. Child prodigies may live average lives afterwards, but usually they don't stay extraordinary for long. And why is that? It's because they are early bloomers. And what happens to organisms that bloom early throughout the seasons? They tend to wither away before everything else if we turn to nature. Here's the truth about most child prodigies that might surprise you. Early success leads to later distress. When you have early success, your expectation is that you're on this upward climb and you have nothing to do other than keep climbing that ladder to an infinite ascension. But that's just not how reality works. And that's not how life works either for anybody. Another misconception is that most child prodigies peak early. As we said, they bloom early, and as a result, they have nowhere else really to go. And then finally, they're not better than you. I love it when parents say, oh, look at Timmy. He can play a Beethoven concerto at the age of 8. I'm thinking, as a musician myself, I'm like, that's great. Does that make little Timmy better than his peers? The answer is not necessarily. But what is it about child prodigies that they don't have that late bloomers have? My audience, what do you think it is? What do late bloomers have that child prodigies don't?
The element of surprise.
Element of surprise? Yes, sir. Wisdom or experience? That is it. Think about it. As you get older, you get wisdom and experience. And what happens when you get wisdom or experience? You make better decisions. You learn things faster. You see patterns. You see how everything connects together in ways that child prodigies just simply cannot have until they age themselves. And that's one thing we forget sometimes is as we get older, it's not that we can't learn, it's that we have to remember that we can learn, but we have to learn differently from children who have an infinite amount of time to tinker around with things and make more mistakes than adults do. We have a lot more opportunities to reach into a well of experience and put things together faster than child prodigies. Another thing that we have to address are 3 common lies when it comes to making progress. And I'm going to give them to you really quickly because this looks like a very smart audience. The first thing is that progress is linear. No, it's not. Everybody thinks that if you start here, it's just going to go up at a rate and you're going to get to the finish line. It's like a linear equation. I'm an engineer. I love math. But I only like math when it speaks the truth. The second lie is that progress is endless. Have you ever seen a friend who makes endless progress that you actually know? Of course not. Progress is not endless. It's going to hit a ceiling at some point, and it's going to come back down, and it's going to go up, and it's going to go down. And then finally, the last lie is that progress is predictable. Not so much. That's not to say that you can't tap into wisdom that we have as late bloomers to make better decisions. Progress is semi-predictable when we do it well, but there's always the element of surprise that is in play. And that brings us uncertainty. And that's good news because with uncertainty, we can have those surprises that we enjoy. But we also have to realize that we operate with incomplete information. And as long as we do, it doesn't matter how advanced AI even gets, we're always going to operate with incomplete information. And we're going to make our own little mistakes, but we are going to learn from it because that's what we do as late bloomers. In the cycle of life, we're going to compare child prodigies to late bloomers to see graphically what the cycle looks like. And here's what the first graph appears to be. Take a look at the 2 arrows right here. What do you notice about these arrows? They're parallel to each other. This is the false graph. This is the graph that everybody extrapolates of, oh, I can't start because I'm not going to climb as fast as another person. This guy started way earlier. I'm starting later. Therefore, it's not going to work out. But this is simply apart from the truth. We have to remember that because we have wisdom and experience, that our green curve looks different from a child prodigy's curve. Now, if we look at most child prodigies versus most late bloomers, this is what the curves truly look like. As you can see here, we have a curve. It's not sharing. Alrighty, so it's not sharing. My apologies, gentlemen. So you have a curve where oh my goodness today. I hope that's much better. I love visuals, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope that you enjoy them as well. Check out this curve. Now we have child prodigies that are peaking early. And then where do they go? They go down and they mellow out for the rest of their lives. But late bloomers, on the other hand, they start slow. They build little things, just a little bit at a time. And what happens? Their progress goes up faster and faster and faster. What is this called in investing? Anybody invest? Shout out an answer. Exponential growth, compound interest. This is the effects of compound interest. And as late bloomers, because we are doing things little by little, everything compounds more and more and more. And later in our lives, it goes up further and further. But what if I told you this isn't the complete picture either? There is one more to consider. This is what life looks like for both child prodigies and late bloomers alike. With child prodigies, it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. What do I call this? I call this a roller coaster, because we are going to have events in our lives that build us up and others that bring us down. But with late bloomers, it starts off as a pretty mellow start, some small victories, some small valleys to enjoy, but then eventually it goes up and down and up and down, and finally the big up that we're looking for. But what happens? A lot of people quit when the curve goes down. And when they quit, they are not leaning on the compound interest that has yet to be planted in their lives. And this is the true reality of what we face as child prodigies versus late bloomers. Now understand, there are no guarantees in life, but this is the general pattern that most people follow, being a child prodigy versus a late bloomer. Now I'm going to introduce to you some of the 5 incredible late bloomers, some that I got to see on live television and others that I read about growing up. Here's the first child prodigy. The first late bloomer that I'd like to introduce. This is Susan Boyle. If you remember Britain's Got Talent, she came on with a very snarky attitude, shaking her hips like this, and she sang, "I Dream a Dream." An audience that was once against her roared in applause for her. But she didn't get her big breakthrough until the age of 48. And it goes to show you, the things that you do earlier in life will compound and finally break through at some point. And Susan Boyle, even though she was runner-up in Britain's Got Talent, was able to achieve that. The second late bloomer I want to show you is Morgan Freeman. You know that voice, right? That voice in the movies that is gold. Morgan Freeman got small acting roles earlier in life. Where others became stars in their early parts, Morgan Freeman bloomed later. And because of that, he's been enjoying a great career as an actor. The next one is Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders just worked a normal life until the age of 64 when he received his first Social Security check, and he realized, I can't live off this. And he decided that he was going to take his recipe for fried chicken from Kentucky and spread it all around the United States and worldwide. He became an entrepreneur at the age of 64. Now, I know some of you might be just a tad above this. I don't think you're that much above it. So I'm going to push the envelope a little bit further with Grandma Moses. I don't think anybody's at Grandma Moses' level yet. Grandma Moses, a folk painter, started at the age of 78 and dedicated the rest of her career to art, even though she lived a very humble life beforehand. And then finally, I know nobody is at this age. This age is going to blow your mind. This is Marshall Allen. Marshall Allen became a band leader for himself at the age of 100. That's right, 100. He played with many other band leaders before, but he decided to run his own band and release his own first album at the age of 100. As you take a look at these late bloomers, some bloomed in their mid-50s, others bloomed much later in life, but they all shared a common trend amongst one another. And what do you think that trend is? It's that they planted many seeds. Now, remember when I was talking about seeds earlier? Seeds are the things that you do earlier in life that you may not know about or you may have forgotten about from 5 years ago, but they come back. And when we plant seeds out there, it's like a forest ecosystem. A squirrel will try to get some nuts, they will hide them, and they will completely forget about them. But do you think that seed is going to forget to bloom? Of course not. It's going to grow as much as it possibly can, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it takes 200 years for most trees to get to their full height, but they get there eventually. You can also think of it in investing. Warren Buffett, for example, made his first $60 billion over a 50-year period. He made his next 60 billion over a 10-year period. That's the power of compound interest. But you can't achieve these results without first planting many seeds. Now, there are 3 things that I'm going to give you today that will help you embrace being a late bloomer. And for you, you may have a different starting point than somebody else. So I want you to take a look at these 3 keys right here. And I want you to ask yourself, where can I start for myself to become a late bloomer? This is what I recommend to embrace becoming a late bloomer, even though I'm in my late 30s. The first thing is you want to own your timeline. I work with a lot of people, a lot of students who believe that they need to achieve something by a certain date, and they simply don't achieve it. And they say, well, my friend Derek achieved it, why can't I? And I ask them, why do you need to achieve it that way? Everybody has their own timeline. If you look at every seed in the forest, every tree grows at its own rate. It will eventually get to its climax within 200 years, but the way that it grows is going to be different from one another. If you ever seen a class of children, you know that different children grow at different rates, and that's just how it works. And everybody needs to embrace their own timeline if they want to become a late bloomer. The second thing you want to do, challenge social norms. So how progress works, saying that if I didn't achieve this in 90 days, okay, I'll learn from it, but where can I go from here? You want to go out and challenge these norms, because otherwise they're going to come back at you and they're going to tell you that it's too late for you. And as a late bloomer, you have to challenge the status quo, because otherwise they're going to keep marketing these young people who are child prodigies and say, this is the gold standard, when we know that's just simply not true. And finally, I think this is the most important part. And as an ecologist and an engineer, I love talking about seeds. You need to count your seeds. Now, what am I talking about by counting your seeds? I'm not talking about what seeds you need to plant today. I'm talking about what seeds you planted long ago that you have forgotten. A conversation that you may have had with somebody that may be more relevant today than ever before. An item that you did, maybe for the Kiwanis Club, that may have made impact 30 years ago, and you would love to do it again because it made that impact. The seeds that you plant from earlier in life have more meaning than you may give it credit for. We love to look forward, but sometimes we have to pull from what's backward in order to embrace the future. Those seeds that you planted are important, and you have to remember every seed that you plant has the potential to grow. And some seeds will work out and others will not. It is a numbers game, but I will give you one guarantee. You plant no seeds, it's not going to grow. It's as simple as that. And here are the 3 items in recap. Make sure you own your timeline, that you challenge social norms, because you want to make sure that you don't let people push back at you. And then finally, count your seeds. And that's what's going to allow you to plant the seeds that you need to plant in order for them to grow well. Now, I want to introduce myself as a late bloomer as well. My name is Forrest Baird. I started kindergarten when I was 7. I graduated high school when I was nearly 20 years old. I graduated college when I was 28. And my latest claim to fame, I picked up the saxophone at 36 years old. I picked up the saxophone because I knew it was an instrument that I was meant to play when I was much younger. When I said I failed in my career as a musician, what I didn't realize is that I didn't have musical ability. It's that I was playing the wrong vehicle. I was playing an instrument that I was not built for. I used to play trumpet. I did fairly well with it, but I hit a limit. And the one thing that I noticed is that I've already built these skills and planted these seeds that allowed me to transition into saxophone playing later on. And what I want to do today is I want to inspire you by playing a little bit of a song that I love dearly called Summertime. For those who are online, I will say that this experience may not be optimized for you, and I sincerely apologize. You should be here to see it for yourself. but you can always see what I have online if you're curious to see my saxophone playing further. Here is Summertime. All righty. It's hard to believe that when you pick something up later that you're more capable than you think you are doing. I remember when I came home with my first saxophone, my wife saw it and she was like, okay, this is new and different. I told her it's something that I wanted to try out. And I gave myself permission to try it out for 3 months. And if it didn't work out, it was okay. But that's the thing. I want you to think about what latent potential that you have and what seeds you've planted before that'll help you blossom much later in life. As Tom has requested, I'm going to open up for questions and answers. We'll first start with people who are here in the audience. If you're online and you have any questions, please type them out and I'll cue Rob to read them out to me. Let's start with our in-person audience. Do we have any questions about being late bloomers? Do you have any aspirations you would love to share? Yes, sir.
Okay, so you wrote a speech about late bloomers.
Mhm.
Did you think of yourself as a late bloomer and then write the speech? Or did you think to yourself, okay, I've got this idea, I want to write a speech about late bloomers? In other words, what came first? I mean, you just felt you had something to say about that, or did you just have a speech idea and then all of this grew out of that?
A lot of
Repeat the question in case the audience online will.
naturally. All right.
Yeah.
For the online audience, we had a question of, did I write this speech because I was fascinated with late bloomers, or did something happen to me to make me think I was a late bloomer? Does that sound correct? Close enough? Very good. I am a person who loves watching people, and I saw a lot of friends end up doing great things in their 20s. And I always thought to myself, I wish I had chosen a different path. Even though I had chosen to keep music in my pocket, I knew that for some reason, keeping music in my pocket was not something that I wanted to do long term. I was taking a short-term detour where I was becoming an engineer, but doing music on the side. But then I saw people who were playing at the New York State Fair, or down in Carnegie Hall. I have several students right now who play in Carnegie Hall on a spring break. And I thought to myself, well, if they're doing it, why can't I do this for myself? Now, am I going to go to Carnegie Hall this year or next year? No, not likely. And I'm okay with that because I'm on my own timeline. But I was tired personally of seeing other people living the lives because they had early starts. And I thought to myself, I want to take a bet on myself later in life because I realized from reading a lot of personal development books, I love books by James Clear, Jack Canfield, et cetera, that if I don't start now, I'm going to be on my deathbed at 70 or 80 or whenever my time ends. And that will be a huge source of regrets. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to test myself. And I realized from my previous experience of being an engineer, having previous musical experience, that maybe I could give this one more shot later in life when nobody expects it. And I remember when I first started posting on Instagram of me playing saxophone, many people asked me, how long have you been playing? I said, a couple weeks, couple months. Why? They're like, you don't sound like you've been playing for a couple weeks, couple months. And that's when I realized, well, maybe if I tested assumptions and I found something that worked for me, I could do that for other people as well. Does that answer your question?
That's in the neighborhood, yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Do we have any other questions in the audience here today?
Take some online.
Let's take some online.
It's okay, maybe these people will think of something.
Rob, yeah, go ahead and shoot me a question from online. There is none, okay. All righty, I think everybody's ready to become a late bloomer. Yes.
You love music. Did you play in high school and college? Did you play other instruments? And then, oh, I'd love to play the saxophone. Or did you just think, you know what? I always want to be a musician. I'm just gonna, because there are people that play like they play piano,
Yeah.
read music, and they have a natural affinity talent. And then there are others that just all of a sudden, Grandma Moses take up painting at 80, 90, and
So as I said earlier, I had an ambition when I was 15 years old of being a musician. I was planning to be a music major at Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia. And I couldn't find an instrument that I worked well with. I was a trumpet player in high school, and I found out from experience that I wasn't built to play trumpet. And a lot of people would think, well, that's a lot of wasted time if you tried an instrument and you found out 4 or 5 years later that it wasn't meant for you. And I thought, well, I've already built the lung capacity to be a trumpet player. Why not just transfer that to a new lane and give it a shot again? When I was in college, I just simply didn't have time. I didn't have the money, especially to buy nice equipment until much later in life.
Did you take music lessons on the back?
I did not. I went on the Saxophone Academy online, which is on YouTube, and I just learned by ear. And then I had friends who helped me along the way, gave me pointers. All righty.
If we have no questions, I want to do something to him that I didn't tell him we were going to do. Next month, we'll see how prepared you are to land on your feet. Next month, Forrest is planning on coming in to get his QS in this district also. I evidently applaud any of our QS to do the same thing in District 100 because it's a good way to stretch yourself. And so I would like some comments, especially from our QSs, for suggestions to ensure that he gets the vote next month. So I am sure, what suggestions do any of our QSs online or in person, what suggestions, what thoughts, additions, whatever you wish to say? Richard?
Well, right off, I think picking up a saxophone and playing, especially doing as well as you did. That
You like that? You like
definitely
that?
works in
That was a real positive.
jazz too. Yeah. You're really entertaining, so that's
Yeah.
And I like asking the audience questions.
So we'll start.
And hopefully the audience is more receptive that, yeah, I'd like to be a writer or, you know. I started running after I did in high school and then I took up the marathon. A lot of people thought I was crazy, but
Yeah.
hey. So that was one of my late blooming. I did it in the mid-50s when most people are thinking I'm too old.
Yeah.
I think one of the big secrets
Some people say I don't feel old.
to come across
No.
is don't give up your dreams no matter how old you are.
Right.
You know, if you want to try for Kentucky Fried Chicken concept, you want whatever it is, you want to play an instrument, you know, whatever it is that is been burning in the back of your mind, don't be afraid to try that out. And then one of the things I really like specifically, first of all, you made me jealous because I wanted to play the saxophone when I was a kid, and they made me play the piano. And it was awfully hard to take that to parties, you know. But anyway, that was special in itself. But to be able to, I wish I was as good a speaker as you are at 30. Which I don't think you gave your age. We figured it out, but I don't think you told us.
So I've been playing saxophone for 2 years, so that makes me 38.
38, yes. Yes. A lot of members of Toastmasters wish they were that good of speakers at 38 too. So, okay, I see Rob has his hand up.
Yes, Rob.
Questions.
There's two online. First is Michael Oger.
Michael Ozier, our co-chair.
Forrest, so if you're gonna do your QS speech, we all know you just don't pick up the saxophone and be one of the Marsalis brothers. It's still hard work. So what is it? Did you practice 2 hours a day? Did you practice every day? Did you have a mentor? Because we know it's still hard work, even if you bloom late. And I think the hard work part is really the key, because people say, oh, you know, it's like riding a bike, right? You fall down 5 times, you quit. But you obviously practice in every spare moment, because you don't get that good. You're not born that good.
Nobody's born that good. I agree with you. So here's the reality. I work, my wife works, and we also work opposite shifts. So she works more in the morning, I work in the evening. So I have to find pockets of time to practice. In the beginning, I was able to pull off practicing about 2.5 hours per day. But then down the road, I had to plan for 15-minute pockets of practice. And I had to be very intentional about it, because if I went in without a game plan, it would just be me noodling around. So I said, I'm going to work on my pitch this time. I'm going to work on my finger control the next time, or I'm going to work on phrasing, dynamics, articulation. So I had to be very intentional with my practice. So I didn't have the luxury of 8 hours of practice per day. I got 2 or 3 at best.
But I think telling that story as part of how you were a late bloomer, but you made it happen by hard work. So I think, and you found pockets of time in between to make that happen. And that's inspirational. We want to hear it.
You want to hear more about it? Is that what you're asking?
No, when your QS speech, I want to hear more about it. Not tonight.
I will let you know that for sure. Thank you.
And Greg, I think Greg's next.
Next question. Yes, Greg.
Thank you for being here and sharing tonight. Very interesting. We all have heard the saying in the past that 70% of communication is body language, facial expressions. Just look at Bob Palmer when he communicates. And so I know you are speaking to a dual audience in person and on Zoom. I got to tell you, leaving the screen on for a long time, I was losing interest in your speech. If you're going to have a dual presentation of your visual aids, I don't know how you use the visual aids in the room there, but the audience sitting here, to me, I was starting to say, okay, I see a little square here. I have to squint to see you, but I got this big thing about the saxophone sitting here, whatever. And I got tired of looking at it, and it started to distract from my attention. In other words, if you turn your back to the audience, are they going to continue listening to you? So I wanted to see you. I was trying to figure out how to go on here to do the speaker, but because of the visual aid just going on and on here, I couldn't see a larger picture of your facial expressions, your body gestures, even just the way you speak. I couldn't see it because I'm looking at a tiny square versus a large square.
Okay. So you'd rather have no PowerPoint next time?
I would say make it short to make to the point what you're saying. In other words, show the saxophone, we see it, we know it's there, then have somebody turn it off for you. Instead of just leaving it up there forever. And I'm going, okay, why do I want to watch the screen? I've seen this thing for long enough. And so think about knowing your audience, how to grab their attention through your body gestures by being on the screen, where we can enlarge you to focus on the speaker, and I can see you and get more excited about. It enhances your message bigger.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Rob.
What books do you recommend that encourages to start as a late bloomer?
That's a great question. I don't have any recommendations at this time. And so I'm thinking of writing it myself. I will say that I'm a first principles thinker. So I always start with books that use first principles. And so my favorite starting point to recommend to a lot of people is The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And he lays out 66 beautiful principles. And he does have stories of people. He had a magician in there, for example, who started in his late 30s as well and became really famous in Las Vegas. So there are several late bloomer stories in there as well. But if I have any other recommendations, I'll send it out to the list. I've read a lot of books in my time, and unfortunately, nothing comes to mind at this time other than The Success Principles.
Famous Amos, I think, would also fit in that category.
Famous Amos?
Yeah, cookies.
Oh, okay.
Trying to think of there was a comedian, female comedian that started real late in life, and I remember her story that was so funny, and that was
Phyllis Diller.
Phyllis Diller, that's what I was thinking.
Phyllis Diller.
Phyllis Diller.
Was Phyllis Diller?
yeah, I think that, yeah. And now I started the story, I gotta finish it, but anyway, she came in and she had an injury, her arm in a sling or something, and she came before this big audience, and she knew they wouldn't be laughing because they'd be worried about what her injury was, and her opening line was, "For those of you who have been recently reading The Joy of Sex, there's a misprint on page 257.
Right.
So then they stopped
Wow.
worrying about her injury and then listened to the rest of her spiel that she was doing her humor. So, but she started really late in life, and I don't know how old. I think she probably was 40 or 50 at least when she did her first stand-up humor. And just recently, the same concept when we had Darren LaCroix come out and speak, and he was not, 40 or something, but he wanted to be a stand-up comic, and nobody ever thought he was funny, including his family. And he went out and did his first stand-up comic routine, and they still didn't think he was funny. But he got one laugh, and according to his story, and that was what inspired him, and he went on to become world champion and a accredited speaker. So it underlines your concept about late bloomers. And so the other one thing I wanted to say about your speaking, two things. We'll do it straight from the coaching perspective. Of course, I'm half deaf, but I would have liked you to be a little louder. I don't know how.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear any complaints, but maybe there was people at home that may not have seen you. I think, unless Rob told you otherwise, that you could have used more stage, a little more movement.
I was recommended.
You didn't want to get in the way.
I was recommended to stay here to stay out of that.
Come on in. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with the visuals, but that I was here, so that would be a little different.
So I will admit I should have brought my laptop charger. I used my iPad today, so that is something that will not happen again.
Yeah, well, anyway, the biggest positive I can come up with is one that I always look for as the chair trying to find speaking opportunities for qualified speakers is this is a product that I can sell. This is a product that I can easily send to a Rotary Club, a Kiwanis Club, or wherever, and they will see value in it. Don't you think, Connie?
Yes.
Yeah. You have
Thank
Connie over here is the QS too. She's keeping quiet. Do you have any suggestions? Any thoughts?
No, I agree that your story is one that would be a story to take on the road. And also, I think your manner,
Nice and loud because you got to use his microphone. So
your way of warmth with the audience and engagement with the audience is always a positive. And I know it was mentioned about online viewing versus in person, and that is a big concern
Yeah,
for
major.
not just you, but any speaker.
how you come across is a major difference to the online audience and the in-person audience. So
I mean,
Richard?
I would suggest, one thing that we're looking for, as Tom mentioned, is speaking outside to other audiences,
Yeah.
organizations. And we're representing the organization
Mhm.
when we're going outside, so dress the part. That would be my other.
I'll be dressed next time.
And then whenever you're dealing technology, have a fallback plan in case, like today.
Oh, that's my fallback plan.
I have a fallback.
So you're saying have two fallback plans?
These have a backup.
We got time for one more in the back, Rob. Yes, please, Greg.
And I think it's still.
Anybody else online?
Greg.
We still have time if he has time to be here now.
We may not put it down.
Greg, your hand's up. Do you have questions or comments, please?
Yeah, my question is, so why are we still sharing here? We can't see you. We're listening to ideas here, but I still, I'm not getting the full effect. Please turn this thing off so we can see you up close to be more effective.
Oh, yeah, still have the sharing, I guess. Oh.
Are you able to, hold on, I want to make a suggestion. Are you able to drag myself? Either, how many screens do you have? Number one. Do you have just one screen?
Just one, and I can't drag.
Are you able to, because I have been able on a single screen to be able to drag it open side by side. So I'll
No,
go ahead and.
I can't, but I'm just trying to help you out here.
Also, we have a couple of other people in the audience, if they have any thoughts or suggestions, we'd like to hear from them. Nothing? Scott, okay.
Yes, Scott.
I thought I could twist his arm.
Something that I would like to see. Forrest,
Okay.
is
Yeah.
that saxophone is very powerful.
Yeah.
The instrument is. People that like music love to hear music. I think you could get a big hook to your audience if you would play something at the beginning to hook people into the saxophone.
So like the bagpipes.
Yeah, we had the guy come in with them from off stage. Where's the QS candidate? You know, he's not here. He's done. Here's John, you know, and then he starts walking down playing his bagpipes. That was really fun.
I think if you did that, and
But
then
then
you got into doing what Mike was talking about, how much you practice and how you had to do things, it gets people more into you, the presenter, and
Okay.
what you're doing, because you're tying later on as late bloomers. But you're demonstrating what you did to be that late bloomer, and it wasn't that on Monday you picked up the saxophone and Tuesday you started playing it. No, there was much more in between.
Mm.
And I just think starting out with that sax would help kind of hook people into it before.
I think
Just my
I think that's a good point. The big thing is to keep his presence. That he started, he is keep that all secret till the end. So he walks in playing the bagpipes, goes into the thing, I'm late bloomers on board, how great it is, so and so on. And then toward the end, he said, by the way, I'm 38. I started when I played 36 is when I picked it up.
That's a good point.
Big point at the end about how you can do this in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
All right. I have one more question for Greg. Greg, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, he put his thumbs
Okay.
up.
Okay. Greg, are you saying that for an online audience that PowerPoints are off? I just want a straight answer, yes or no.
Off, no, they're useful up to a certain period of time. In other
Okay.
words, what I'm saying is, if you have that, you have a visual aid with that saxophone in your hand, how long are you going to speak with that? Are you going to show it and then put it down? Or are you going to hold on to it for the whole speech where we're looking at that too? Just a thought.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Greg. Yes.
If I interpreted what he's saying right, that the entire speech, you were here and the rest of it was here.
Yes.
So if you made sure you were here and then only when you were actually referring to a slide, a visual, show it then. And then the rest of the time, the only thing on the screen is you. And then the next time you're going to show us a graph, you show that. Remember, Cora, that was one of the criticisms of her the other night. So you're there, and then whenever you have a video, a visual, if it's 10 seconds long, if it's 30 seconds long, it's there for 10 or 30 seconds, and then it's gone. And then for the next 3 minutes, it's you again. And then your next visual is there for 15 seconds, and then it's just you again. And that would eliminate, I mean, they would see you giving the speech, not you, what he's complaining about. You were in a box this big and everything else was this big.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think how to The limitations is I would have to come up here, turn it off, and then turn it on. Yeah, that's,
Be doing the same thing, so,
so I would,
Have somebody else.
figure that out.
so I would have to have a so what you're recommending is having a secondary. Yeah, it's being controlled. Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
good.
So I have an assistant and the remote controls the slides. But yeah, that's something I've been thinking about, maybe having an assistant down the road of cutting the slides and bringing them on. Maybe that's how we'll have to go.
Even if you didn't have, you could find someone at the meeting, most likely, maybe not at Kiwanis Club, but here at a Rotary Toastmaster Club, there'd be someone who would be willing to. If you couldn't, if that particular time you were gonna do it, you just have somebody.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Because yeah, it is unfair to the online audience, I realize, to just have that blaring at them. So
The Kiwanis and at least the clubs I sent have sent people out there all in person, so it wouldn't be an issue. It'd be a matter of, they would have a screen maybe, and you could show it on the screen. And then you could do that with your remote, no problem.
yeah, I'll figure it out.
What more, Scott, you have anything to say? Any suggestions? You're a past district governor, you got a lot of speeches behind you.
I really enjoyed your presentation. I'm curious, what's you're an engineer,
By training.
by trade?
Yeah.
What type of engineering? I know mathematics.
Yep. I was a chemical engineer by training. And a joke I like to say is I became an engineer so I could buy better musical instruments.
It's amazing to see an engineer perform the way you do.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just watch great people perform and I ask myself, I reverse engineer their processes using my engineering training. I ask, how can I implement that in my craft? There's another really good book I would recommend to everybody. It's called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. It shows that you can shamelessly look at somebody and say, I like what they're doing. How can I implement that in my craft? And that's what can help you build your progress more and more rather than just going flat. You can go exponential or make huge leaps, innovation.
Okay, we're ready to close this down, but there's someone else in the audience that I will not force to speak, but yeah, your wife is here, is that correct? She confirmed that all those things you said are true. He's nodding. Okay, thank you so much for coming.
Way to blow my coat.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And